You know what time it is. It's time for the Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show on Mild Sauce. How you guys doing? How you doing, Jake?
I'm just turning on my microphone. I'm doing all right, man.
All right, I'm back from my Northwoods sabbatical.
The Northwood sabbatical,
Yep.
killing the moose and stuff. Steve has been wrestling moose in the northern tundra of Wisconsin for the last 6 weeks. You might see a few marks on his face and stuff. Trust me, the moose looks worse.
Yes, it was definitely a soul recharging trip to the Northwoods, and I'm back in the city, back for more rock.
Here we go. So we just had a couple songs that are kind of indicative of the episode you're going for today, right?
Certainly. Let's tee it up. So we started out with the classic track from the Bags, Babylonian Gorgon, and then we followed it up with Alice Bag's Modern Day Virgin Sacrifice off of her debut solo LP from 2016, and that gives a little bit of a preamble to what we're going to be dipping into today. So
a lot of bags in the...
Yeah, a lot of bags. If you haven't figured it out, we're doing a local show review that took place just a couple weeks ago at Chi-Town Football, my favorite place in the city to go see shows, and it was Alice Bag, the classic first wave LA legend Alice Bag, played Chi-Town Football with Faruza Bruta, Primitive Teeth, Porno Glows, and Anti-Cupra. So you might have heard a few of these names before. Some local fucking just amazing acts that I had an opportunity to check out yet again. And as always, they kicked my fucking ass, and it was wonderful.
That's real. The Chi-Town Football is like a small venue, so when they kick your ass, like they really sometimes get out and actually do that.
Oh yeah. And as you can see, once we get into this episode, some of the photos that I took from the show turned out really nicely. Most of them did not. I had phone and photo issues for this set, but I did try and include some of the shots from the performances where I could, where they were not a blurry mess. But yeah, it was a great fucking show. This is one of those sets that I was super looking forward to for several months leading up to it. Like I had said before, Alice Bag is first wave LA punk. So if you know your fucking punk history, you really should be knowing Alice Bag. You know, she was lead singer of the Bags, classic first wave LA punk. I think it's arguable that, you know, in Chicago we're a little bit lucky because we've got Los Crudos, the first Latino hardcore band in America. And with Alice Bag, I mean, it's arguable. Was it the Bags or was it the Zeros as the first Latino punk band in America? And these are East LA, 1978, 1979, just getting down to the first 100 punks of LA. And it was a totally gratifying experience. She fucking killed it, along with every other band that was on the set list. This was brought together by Sarah Rychek, the lead singer of Udisic, yet another awesome band that we've talked about before. And, of course, in attendance was Martin Sarandagai, lead singer of Los Crudos. It was a very well-attended set. There was a lot of lead singers in the audience for this show. Yet again, I ran into
notes, looking at things.
Yeah, I ran into and had a chance to chat with lead singer Droid's Blood, another band that we featured on a recent episode, and also Breathing Light, which we'll be getting into in an upcoming episode. But we've talked about them in the past, and they were in attendance too. So very well attended, very good show all around. You know, like I said, this is a little bit of a punk history show, but tying it in with a lot of just fantastic current Chicago punk bands. So really, really enjoyable set. I was very, very excited to go see that show, and I hope you enjoy today's episode.
And also, we're getting a little far on here, but we got a beer that we bring in every week.
Yep.
This week, tell us what we're sipping on, man.
So I think because it was Alice Bag, it was Faruza Bruta, it was Anticuerpo, a lot of Latino representation. So I thought that we should be appropriately representative in our beer for the week. So right now we are rocking out to Five Rabbit. Awesome Five Rabbit. I love this brewery. I've tried several beers in their stable, and today we're drinking the Gringolandia Super Pills.
There it is.
So nice, easy drinking. It's definitely got a little bit more of a kick than, your standard Pilsners. It's got a little bit more bite to it, but it's still a very nice late summer easy drinker, as we're doing right now. Very good stuff. Like I said, Five Rabbit is a Chicago brewery. They are they made a name for themselves a couple years ago when the election was kicking off because they had the house beer at Trump Hotel, and then once the glorious Orange Goblin in the White House decided to come out and start calling Latinos
the glorious Orange
murderers, these guys took a fucking stand. They fucking laid their dick on the table and said, "Fuck you, Trump," and then they took
probably sold more beer afterwards. Like Nike selling more stuff. Shout out Nike.
Yep. Oh yeah, that shit cracks me up too. All these fuckers burning their Nikes. It's like they got your money already. Oh,
and also, like, most of the Nikes they're burning are like Nikes nobody would wear anyway. So like, it's not like they're burning like brand new Air Force Ones or anything. Mm-hmm. And also, if they were, they had to buy them first. So yeah, exactly. It's just stupid as shit.
Mm-hmm. But, Five Rabbit, they were the ones that they took their beer out of the Trump Hotel and Towers and renamed it Chinga Tupelo, which was definitely appropriate.
Okay, that's what's up.
And I like Chinga Tupelo. I've drank that one. That was the beer I was crying into on election night a couple years back, but that was not quite available for me to grab today. So today we're rocking out to the Super Pills. But shout outs to them. It's ABV of 7.2, so it's got a little bit of bite to it. So
yeah, a little bit.
Nothing too crazy by the end of the show.
By the end of the show, we'll probably be leaning a little bit, but it's almost noon, so.
Yeah, we're doing a morning one today, so this is a little bit of a hair of the dog day drinker.
Yeah. It was a long day yesterday. Shout out AM/FM Gallery for having us out to live stream everything at the feast.
Yeah, that
got mixed up.
Great.
We did Bud Billiken. We been at the bait truck. We've been all over every Saturday. So, yesterday was great. If you guys have a chance, check out all of our socials for the most part. You can look on YouTube, Twitter. We'll have some other places elsewhere, IGTV and whatnot, but a lot of fun. We live streamed all the sets from the Pepper Stage at the Feast, AM/FM's local community gathering out in Douglas Park. It was a lot of fun. We had Mother Nature. We had Prov and Clue and Prov came by, talked to Portia King. We had a Kenya at the top of the day. A whole bunch of bands throughout. The Adventists, who we might have on the show in the future here. Just a lot of good stuff going on. So yeah, I've been hurting all day from doing that all day yesterday, but we're making it through.
But the videos and the performances look great. I mean, Mild Sauce has been killing it out in the field this last month or two.
We've been out in the land lately. We went to the south side for the Bud Billiken. Went to the southwest side to West Englewood for the bait truck, and then yesterday we rounded all the way back to going to the west side for the Douglas Park thing. So we've been all over the city.
Yeah. And I gotta tell you, I love that Bud Billiken video that you guys have.
That's one of the greats for sure. It was Jamal was having the time of his life on that float.
Well, I'm glad we showed the transplant how it's done in the city.
Exactly, yeah, man. He definitely is he said he feels like a newly welcome Chicagoan, which he very well might be. Shout out Jamal, man. You gotta get the 3-piece going back again.
Yep. All right, so dipping back in our next traditional segment on the show, the shirt. So
yeah, give us the shirt, my man.
Kind of giving us a little bit of context. So when I was building out this week's episode, it was this was a challenge because there was so many great directions and great angles I could have taken it. But the way I kind of chose to build it out a little bit with our not local songs, if you will, I wanted to give a little bit of context. Like I said, Alice Bag is ground zero punk rock from day one.
You've talked about it quite a bit before too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I and if I sound like I'm gushing, it is because I am. I is. No, total fucking respect. I am a huge fan of all things punk rock, especially. I'm a big fan of LA punk. Right at its inception, similarly to New York, where you had, not only the Ramones, but you had the Talking Heads and Blondie, who Blondie is going to be playing next week at Riot Fest. We might do a little bit of conversation.
We do got to talk a little bit about a little preview of that at some point before we get out of here.
But, similar to the New York punk scene, right in the nascent early stages, the LA punk scene was very artistic. It was not so... not so rigorous, like pre-hardcore, pre-Black Flag, pre-Circle Jerks, stuff like that.
Pre-Circle Jerks.
It was
Pause.
a lot more eclectic, let's say. So, whereas, they had Alice Bags, they also had the Go-Go's, they had, the Zeros, the Minutemen, so many great punk bands coming out of it. So to give a little bit of context and a sense of time and place of where Alice Bag kind of first came out and with her original band, the Bags, kind of gave their formative kind of performances and got their toes a little bit wet in this punk scene. This is another band that I guess if you think about it contextually, if anybody's a fan of Penelope Spheeris's Decline of the Western Civilization, if you think back to that old punk documentary, there was bands like the Fear and the Germs and X, and of course the Bags, and like I said, giving things a little bit of context, I'm playing Black Flag. As you can see, I'm wearing my Black Flag Everything Went Black shirt. Got a chance to see them a few years back at Reggie's.
Where's the shirt from? How old is the shirt?
The shirt, this is, like I said, this is from, I believe, the 2014 or 2015 Black Flag show at Reggie's. Obviously, Everything Went Black is a one of their 80s EPs, I believe 86 or 87, but, it was great stuff. And like I said, this is a little bit of time and place contextual. So let's dip into it. This is going to be a Nervous Breakdown, the classic Black Flag track featuring Keith Morris on vocals.
All right, let's jump into it. Mild sauce.
Apologize for acting out of line. You see the way I am. You leave anytime you tell us I'm crazy and I'm hurt. Head on my shoulders, going berserk. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I'm so bad with the fucking red. I'm so bad with the fucking thing. I'm so sick of everything. I just wanna die.
All right, so we're back, Mild Sauce, live weekends. And we're talking about old school punk, new school punk, Chicago punk, all fucking sorts of punk today.
Punk.
And that leads us into our feature. So like I said, this was a fantastic show at Chi-Town Football. It was Anticuerpo, Porno Glows, Primitive Teeth,
Pornography Glows.
Pornography Glows, yes.
Don't shortchange them.
The Pornography Glows. And they did indeed glow. Primitive Teeth, Faruza, Bruta, and of course Alice Bag. So I feel a little bit remiss. The first band that played that night was a band called Anticuerpo, and they don't have any recorded stuff out, so I can't play anything for you. Damn. But as you can see on the screen,
get some recording.
That just shows how raw and fresh they were.
Perhaps.
But yeah, as you can see on the screen, we've got. I was able to capture a little bit of their performance. I don't know the the names of the performers specifically, but they're definitely people that I have seen at recent shows, specifically the Haram show. So they are scenesters. They're out and about. They were very raw. They were female fronted, very good. If you'll recall back to a previous episode, they reminded me a lot of Social Quarantine, another local band. So good stuff all around. Shout outs to them. Like I said, if we had any of their recordings, we would certainly be showcasing. But since we don't, we will move on to the next band. So like I said, Ente Cuerpo is great. I anticipate looking forward to hearing their recorded material once it comes out. And getting on to the next one, The Pornography Glows. This is a different, little bit different of a sound than Ente Cuerpo, whereas they were very aggressive, very raw. The Pornography Glows was a little bit more, like we were talking about earlier, a little bit more in that Talking Heads experimental world of punk. And as you'll be able to hear on the track that we're going to feature, you know, they're dipping into some old school territory. So why don't we get into it? This is a track called Trash. And any of you old school rock, punk, glam fans will recognize it. This is the classic New York Dolls track, and I think that The Pornography Glows really kind of captures the sassiness, let's say, of the New York Dolls original.
All right, let's check this one out. Mild Sauce Radio.
We're back, Mild Sauce Live. And we were just checking out Primitive Teeth with Omit off of their Benefit for Planned Parenthood EP. And before that, listening to the Pornography Glows with their cover of the classic New York Dolls track, Trash.
A little mix up there, back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it definitely is a tonal shift. But, you know, astute listeners to the Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show will remember that we've covered Primitive Teeth in a past episode. And I love them. Fantastic three-piece unit. I believe just last night they opened up for Shonen Knife at Sub T. So they're getting out there with some new music out there. So if you get a chance, I definitely recommend them. Very good. You know, to me they have a little bit of that Fugazi, post-Fugazi era Discord Records, East Coast post-hardcore sound that I'm a really big fan of. I like that it's a little bit more angular, a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more, I don't know, unique and challenging, but in the best ways.
Yeah, no, it's easy to get into as well. I mean, it's not like there's not like a high barrier to dive into stuff like this either. You know? Last night, like I was saying, we saw the Adventist. It was definitely a different vibe from like a lot of R&B and rap that was going on throughout the night. But like even there's like this thread that kind of goes through with everything, you know, that thread of expression where you can kind of pick it up from anywhere. Certain bands you played definitely are harder barrier of entry, but the guys you've been on today definitely, like, I don't know, that punk spirit kind of permeates throughout a lot of different genres.
Yeah, absolutely. That thread of rebellion and you know, just kind of sticking it in the eye of the man, and you know, that fuck you, I'm gonna do it my way. You know.
Yeah.
It really kind of gets out there. But like I said, and as you kind of mentioned, you know, Primitive Teeth was definitely a little bit of a I don't want to say outlier, but a little bit of a gear shift in the tone of the evening, but in the best way possible. I really like that band. Like I said, they're playing out. They were just rocking out with Shonen Knife the other night, and they've got some new stuff out on the horizon. So definitely check them out.
Definitely.
I cannot say enough high praise for them. I've had a chance to talk with a few of the people in the band, and they're just great all-around people, great all-around Chicagoans. It's good stuff. I'm glad to see them out and about whenever I get a chance.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So then this brings us, and like I said, you know, Primitive Teeth is one of those bands that we've showcased previously, and I'm a big fan of. And the next band is the same way. You know, I know that we've spoken highly of Faruza Bruta on at least a couple episodes. They are one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting, you know, oi type, you know, old school British style punk bands rocking in the city. I've had an opportunity to see them when they played with Rix, the fantastic French oi band last year. They are, some of the members are, oh shit. Oh, here it is. Some of the other members are also in the great Chicago band Riesco. So, you know, there's a lot of good roots in there. We talked about Riesco a couple episodes back, and probably Faruza Bruta a few episodes before that. But here we are back again with
we are.
You know, just great fucking record. Verdugos, if I'm not butchering the name. But, no, these guys were great. Had a chance to, again, you know, I'm loving these small shows because you get a chance to, you know, socialize and chat with the bands. And this is yet another great fucking set of Chicagoans doing great fucking new, unique, interesting stuff in the city. So let's dip into it. This is Faruza Bruta, and this is Un Tres, Un Dos.
All right. Good Spanish.
I'm trying. You know, we've got this segment every week where Steve Breit ruins the exaltant Spanish language, and I'm trying to make that less and less of a thing.
All right, we're gonna do good this time. We'll see how we do after this. Here's Un Tres, Un Dos by Fuerza Bruta. Mild Sauce Radio.
All right, we're back, Mild Sauce Live. That was Faruza Bruta with Un Tres Un Dos. Like I said, man, I love these guys. That was one of the tracks that they played. They got their crowd really fucking riled up with that one. You know, I really love that band. And before I get too much further, I just wanted to mention that this show was brought to you and I by an organization called Pure Joy. I recommend that everybody go online and check them out. They
How can they find that?
An organization that is trying to get together an all-ages event space to put on punk shows like this, you know.
Where can they find that at?
Check them out on Facebook. Check them out online. Give them a search. You can find them. I know
Pure
that
Joy?
Pure Joy has Facebook presence. And like I said, they're doing a lot of the sponsoring of these sort of underground events in the city with the hopes of collecting enough money to get a dedicated all ages event space to continue putting on great underground shows just like this one. So,
Super dope.
they had a raffle at this event, and you know, I was a little bit. I mean, you know me. You know, regular viewers of this show will notice that, you know, I buy merch from shows. So I came in with a pocket full of money, and I don't want to say I was disappointed, but literally nobody had any shirts for sale.
Oh,
And I
no.
was like, what the fuck? Alice Bag had a fantastic screen print that I had the opportunity to get autographed by the entire band.
That's dope.
I'll post that up on Instagram. It's a fucking dope-ass poster. It's really fucking cool. It's currently hanging in my living room right now.
We need to live stream how you go about getting people to sign shit. I think that'd be a funny, like, how-to with Steve Breit.
Right. But, no, so, like, I came in expecting to drop a bunch of money on merch, and, like, nobody had shirts, and nobody had CDs for sale or, you know, albums, nothing. So they had this, they had a raffle. So I literally threw all the money that I was going to drop for gear and stuff into the raffle, and I had it definitely worked out to be a good night. I won a Bandcamp gift certificate, so I could,
Oh, was that the one where you won, like, a whole bunch of stuff?
yeah, I won so much that they stopped giving stuff to me. They were like, you're winning too much. I won a skateboard.
Skateboard, yeah. You're on a skateboard,
Yeah,
dude.
this old school Paul Peralta skateboard deck.
That's what's up.
I won a gift certificate for Bandcamp, and I won a free guitar tuning session at a local record shop, but I don't own a guitar. So that was just donated money. But all in all, it was money to a good cause, so I don't regret dropping anything, and I was very lucky in return. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Pure Joy. They're a great organization. Definitely support them. I know I do. So
Nice.
that leads us into the headliner. And like I said, this was Alice Bag, and I was super thrilled. You know, this is an artist that she actually came to Chicago last year, but she came right around mid-August, and I was out of town, so I didn't have an opportunity to go check it out. So I was super happy that she came back. And this was touring in support of her new album, Blueprint. Now, as I said in the setup, the Bags were, you know, ground floor, first wave, first 100 punks, you know, early fucking LA punk. So she's like one of the founding godmothers of punk music, and me and my love of the genre, of that era, of that location, specifically with music, I was stoked to the nines to go check this out. And
super dope.
I had an opportunity to chat with her. She's a wonderful person, super cool. So Alice, and I had an opportunity while I was there to buy her book. I did not have a chance to bring it, but it's called Violence Girl.
Oh, wow.
It is the story of her upbringing and, kind of the formation of West Coast punk music. So once I get into that, I'll certainly be able to give you a little bit more in-depth information on it. But she was great. So the Bags, late 70s, early 80s, East LA punk, you think back. And, whereas if you think about punk music in the 70s, that was scary for white people. Like think about it, like white people were scared of other white people walking around with mohawks and
right.
And
there was like a counterculture that now is like kind of.
Think about if white people were that scared of other white people doing that. Imagine how they're scared they were of like brown people doing that or black people doing that, or you know what I mean. So it's just multiplied.
It's like that whole band called Death thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or band named Death or whatever it was.
Exactly, band called Death. They're East Coast. They're New Jersey.
No, they're Detroit.
Or were they Detroit?
Yeah.
So like with the West Coast scene, if you read and if you're into the history of punk music, it was hard enough for white bands to play punk rock shows in LA. Latino bands trying to play punk rock in West LA, that just didn't happen.
It's kind of reminiscent of what you were just talking about with Pure Joy, where like you have to create these spaces, right?
Right. So the LA River was almost like a dividing line. So everybody East LA, you couldn't go to West LA to play shows. So the bands like the Bags, like the Zeros, it's funny if you read into the history of punk rock on the West Coast, you would never think about it listening to them now, but Los Lobos is considered like early LA punk because all the groundbreaking steps that these East LA punk bands like the Zeros and the Bags were making headway trying to get into these West LA venues. Once they gotten their foot in the door, they were doing everything they could to bring their compatriots up with them. So whereas Los Lobos is not necessarily punk, they would bring Los Lobos to open for punk bands because Los Lobos was not getting bookings anywhere. And think about how big they are today. And you know what I mean? It's just like imagine like like I said, like Los Lobos is a huge band, and it like think about like nobody was letting them in except for bands like the Zeros, except for bands like the Bags, like X.
There's always got to be somebody that like opens that door. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So like this goes back to what I was saying up on the top of the episode, where LA punk before Black Flag and Fear and the Adolescents and Suicidal Tendencies and bands like that kind of came in and brought that thuggish suburban skinhead vibe into the scene. It was a lot more eclectic, a lot more artistic, and a lot more welcoming. And like I said, this gets us to Alice Bag, and we're going to be checking out a few tracks from her. So the next track we're going to check out was a single off of her most recent LP, the Blueprint LP, and it's called 77. And
at the beginning of the episode, we caught Modern Day Virgin Sacrifice as well, right?
And, I think astute listeners to lyrics will immediately jump on the fact that Alice is not a vocalist who is concerning herself with petty stuff of what I mean, shit like that. She's got a point of view, and she's going to let you know. And,
definitely.
Just like you brought up with Modern Day Virgin Sacrifice, if you dip into the lyrics of that song, it's very interesting. It's about, as a woman raising daughters, she's watching her daughters coming of age, you know what I mean, going through puberty and finding magazines like Cosmopolitan or,
when did Alice Bag, for the ignorant one here in the room, when did she come up and like how, like...
So Like I said, Alice Bag herself as the Bags, that's like 1978, 1979.
So she was coming up like through the she was conscious through the 60s and the 70s.
She was conscious through the 60s and the 70s.
I mean,
riots.
It has to be very interesting for somebody like herself that was at like the forefront of culture in the 60s and 70s to, like, we're about to play a song called No Means No in a second, like that. When we played it just to test the speakers earlier today, caught me a bit because when you bring up the fact that she has daughters, her daughters are now coming up at a time when women's rights are just as forward as they were when she was coming up, right?
Yeah.
So it must be very interesting. I never really thought about that generational thing happening with women right now, where if you did come up in the 60s and 70s and you saw those, that first, not the first wave, but that wave of feminism that came about in the 60s and 70s. And now you're seeing that come back again in such a big way. It has to be kind of a proud moment, but also something where you probably want to pass down a lot of messages and knowledge and wisdom and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And I think also I think something to keep in mind is because we're talking about women's rights in the 60s and 70s and now, but we're also talking about minority women's rights. And culture, there's a strong emphasis on religion and traditionalism. So I think it's almost amplified that a Latina woman is really kind of taking that flag and really kind of pushing those boundaries. So much respect for her for what she did back in the day, and obviously as she continued her career over the decades. So as we heard on that early song Modern Day Virgin Sacrifice, that's almost like a letter to her daughter saying, don't let society dictate what is beautiful and what is right for you. That's kind of the thrust of that song, and that's what's something, I mean, I'm a dude, so, there's a little bit of a disconnect, but I can definitely respect, where she's coming from and growing up with sisters, that mentality. Don't let others define you. You define yourself, and I have so much respect for her to bring that out in her music. And
I mean, that's something that
compromising.
Yeah, that's something like LeBron James was talking about in the Shop on HBO, where he was talking about his daughter with Candace Parker, and like he was talking about how he tells his daughter you can do whatever you want and stuff, and a lot of times you just have to be told that. I saw Chance after Mac Miller died tweeted a video of the first version of his Brain Cell song, which was actually to the beat of Mac Miller's Kool-Aid and Frozen Pizza.
Yeah.
But ironic, it's the saddest thing in the world. But the picture was of him with Barack Obama and his family, and that was the YouTube photo behind it. And I don't think he did it. It was just on YouTube like that. But it was interesting to me because I had a thought laying in bed this morning, listening to that, because I was like, man. Chance was showing the world at a young age. Of course he went and took over the world. People who are able to see, if you're able to see what's available or you can see what the possibilities are, I think you have much better opportunity to take advantage of those things later in life.
Yeah.
So it's cool that this knowledge being passed down, that this whole thing is coming around. Yeah, it's a very cool idea. She's still making music that supports it, which is even better.
And to that point, so she did her thing back in the day, and then, she felt that she had to fucking jump in line. So
it makes sense, though, too, in the cyclical nature of things. So.
Yeah. So Alice became an educator, and she was a teacher for 20 years.
Wow.
And, after a couple decades, and like I said, once she has a daughter, starts raising that daughter, starts, kind of reevaluating and looking at society from a little bit different lens, she felt she had to get back out there, So in 2016, she got back out in the scene full force, and released her first solo album, and that was Modern Day Virgin Sacrifice was a track off of her first solo album. Now she's done a bunch of stuff in the interim, collaborative shit, so we'll check out some of that a little bit later. But just going back to one thing I really respect about Alice and her songs and just the musical path that she's chosen to kind of navigate through her career, she's uncompromising. And the next track we're going to listen to is a track called 77 off of the Blueprint LP. And this is her speaking out, and not only speaking out to the women out there, but also to her family, and kind of getting that shit off her chest. This is a song about how women make 77 cents per every dollar that a man makes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's crazy. I was actually reading something that in Rwanda they have the closest. They're one of the countries with the closest male to female ratio of payment. It was on Vice yesterday. It's random. Or no, it was on that. It was that goddamn show that they have on Netflix, Explained with Vox.
Oh yeah.
That's ridiculous as hell, man. My bad. That's a little side thing, but yeah, they have a great episode on the pay gap.
But yeah.
Should we jump into this thing?
Yeah, let's jump in. Let's check out 77, and then let's jump. We'll do two. So we'll do 77 first. Like I said, that's women make 70 cents on every dollar a man makes, and then the next song is pretty fucking self-explanatory. This dips back into her 2016 LP, and that'll be a track called No Means No.
All right, let's get it, man. It's Mild Sauce Radio. You're listening to some Alice Bag with Steve Breit Rock Discovery.
Seven
All right, Mild Sauce live, and we're back. Like I said, man, we're jamming out to some Alice Bag. So we first listened to 77, and then we closed it out with No Means No. And I'll just say, like, every Alice Bag and Bags tracks I played tonight were tracks that she played live, and it was fucking awesome. You know, it was. I mean, like, I can't say enough. It was such a heartwarming show. You know, it was one of the best shows I've seen this year. It was phenomenal. It was right up there. And like I said, going back, thanks to Sarah Rychek from Udisic. She was the one that really kind of pulled the weight and got this show together. And it was all around just super fucking good. This was the last show that I checked out, or almost the last show I checked out before I went up to Wisconsin for a few weeks. So it was very needed in my life, and I hope you enjoyed it too. So like I said, Alice is out on tour. She's back out and about putting out new music. I definitely recommend checking it out. If you're a fan of any of that West Coast early punk rock, if you like X, if you like the Adolescents, if you like the Zeros, you know, this is right in the wheelhouse with it. You know, great fucking stuff.
Yeah, man. It's always fun when I enjoy some of it because I don't know what the hell's going on most of the time. But yeah, no, Alice Bag, very tight. I like the cyclical nature of the message.
Mm-hmm. It was very cool. Like I said, it was definitely a positive show. It was an uplifting show. It was very cool. It was a very well attended show. And all the bands. It was just a great evening out, you know. And again, shout outs to Chi-Town Football. It's an amazing place to see stuff. I don't think I've ever seen a bad set at that location. So, very cool stuff. So, you know, as we kind of wind down towards the end of this episode, you know, as usual, giving my shout out. Shout out to Jake.
Hey, shout out to you.
Without Jake, we can't get this show together. So, you know, he's very integral, very important. So, big shout out to Jake. Shout out to Mild Sauce as a whole. And everybody that's on, you know, shout out to Three Piece, you know, of course.
We got the great Guide to Grade A Living.
Mm-hmm.
We got Mars, Do Right Radio.
Yeah, Do Right. Fucking kicks ass.
Joy Has Questions coming next week with her Spades Brunch. Next Saturday. So we'll welcome Joy to the team. She was out with us at the bait truck last week with Portia, interviewing people out there. And
those are some great videos. Check those out.
Yeah, man. Like I said, we've been moving around this summer. Proof of concept has been our theme. So Joy will be joining Mild Sauce Radio very soon. We also might have some other things in store for you. I've been talking to a lot of people around town. We got some fun stuff happening. We might be popping back out for another Let's Talk Chicago later this month. But we'll see, man. Just keep in touch with us. Try to follow us as best you can. I know we're a little scattered everywhere. We're trying to streamline it for you, but soon it will be.
All right. So with that, like I said, you know, we're wrapping things out. So I wanted to play. We're going to dive into 2 more tracks before we check out. This is a punk show, so we're running through a lot of music today, unlike the Yob show from the
9-minute songs.
Yeah, we can get about 3 or 4 songs in an hour in. But no, so the next track we're going to check out gets a little bit into the more eclectic world of West Coast music. So this is a band that Alice Bag is a performer in. She's not necessarily the leader of it, but she is definitely an integral member. So we'll check out Cholita, the female Menudo, and that was a LBGT female. I don't know, you know, if anybody knows West Coast, you know, underground culture, it was fronted by Vaginal Davis, the
okay,
the kind of seminal LBGT drag queen out in LA, Vaginal Davis. So it's her fronted band, and then our final track, again, kind of keeping things in the context of where Alice kind of comes from. The last track we're going to check out, and I hope you find it pretty interesting because I know I do, is the Go-Go's. So like I was saying in the beginning, you know, the LA punk scene in the very beginning stages was very eclectic, very artistic, very female forward, and obviously the Go-Go's are a huge band, but not many people realize that they were a punk band.
Oh, yeah.
And the major labels kind of wrecked that punk rock reputation real early. They were a punk band until they got signed, and the A&R people at kind of turned them into the girl group that everybody else really knows them for. But
right.
I've got much respect for all punk roots, so you got to give a shout out to the Go-Go's.
Give them a shout out.
Let's head on out, and as always, we'll see you again. Upcoming episodes, we've got a lot of stacked stuff coming on. The fall's like really kind of kicking it back in gear, and now with me back in town, I believe.
Yep. We got some guests coming to the show. We're going to start, now that the summer's over, everyone stop running around. We'll get that time to kick back, get some good conversations,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, chill out a little bit. It'll be nice.
Yeah.
The summer's been, summertime Chicago, man. It really kicks your ass.
So I think next week we're going to do some underground post-punk. So we're going to get a little bit more experimental than this week's
We
episode.
had Fall Out Boy at Wrigley Field last night.
We're gonna, if I'm not mistaken, next week we're gonna do some Breathing Light, Manika, Absolutely Not, and the Big Ups, and then that will lead us into that'll lead us right into Riot Fest. So we'll be talking Riot Fest. We'll be talking some old school, new school.
Shout out Riot Fest. They had a little rumors going around a little bit, but pulled it
rumors have been flying
together.
in the last couple weeks.
Survived the Blink-182 cancellation. They got Run the Jewels, Weezer, and Taking Back Sunday.
Yeah, so that's going to be pretty big. We'll be definitely deep diving in. I've got weekend passes, so you can be sure that I'm going to be giving you reviews and updates about that set.
Who knows? You might even be live.
Yeah, if we can do it live, I'm definitely down. And then once we get out of that, we're going to be getting to the end of September, and that, of course, leads us to Cold Waves. Cold Waves, the big classic Chicago Industrial Festival held at the Metro at the end of the month. I will be in attendance, and you will be hearing my reports from that. So we've got a lot of stuff coming up. Stay tuned.
Get into it.
Yep.
This is Mild Sauce Radio. It's the Breit Rock Discovery Show.
Until next week, and then, like I said, enjoy Cholitas and the Go-Go's.
Here we go. We're going to dive into those now. Check back next week.
Cheers.
Goodbye.
Pintora, nacido en mi tierra, con el pincel extranjero. Pintora, que sigues el rumbo de tantos pintores viejos. Siempre que pintas iglesias, pintas angelitos bellos. Pero nunca te acordaste de pintar un ángel negro. Pintarás y pintas con amor. ¿Por qué desprecias su color? Si sabes que en el cielo también los quiere Dios. Pintora de santos de alcoba, si tienes alma en el cuerpo. Pintora que al pintar tus cuadros te olvidaste de los negros. Aunque la Virgen sea blanca, píntame angelitos negros que también se van al cielo. Todos los negritos buenos.